we're going to recap the Super Bowl. The Chiefs won. The Buccaneers won 31-9. What stood out to you in this game? And, I'm very happy this happened. In the intro, got my Tampa Bay Buccaneers hat on right now, NFC champions. I just bought some Super Bowl gear, and my Tom Brady jersey is going to come in this week as well. But, Jack, what stood out to you in this game the most?
Just how much of an impact the offensive line makes on an offense, because you look at that Chiefs team, one of the most prolific offenses, not only in the league, but in recent memory. You have Patrick Mahomes, who a lot of people are considering to be one of the most talented quarterbacks they've ever seen. Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, you keep going on naming the weapons, and that Buccaneers defense dominated them. Like, Patrick Mahomes couldn't get anything going. And while a lot of that had to do with an elite Buccaneers defense, it was painfully obvious how much a wounded offensive line hurt the Chiefs. And I just think it's interesting because you look at guys like, we'll talk about later on, Lamar Jackson, who had offensive line struggles this year. Sam Darnold is another guy who a lot of people make the argument, he hasn't had an offensive line, and it just is another prong in that argument about how much of an offensive line is valued. Especially, it's not really a position that the casual fan would think about having a big impact. You think it's a battle of the quarterbacks, but realistically, if you don't have the infrastructure around your quarterback, you can't succeed. And the Buccaneers just had a better surrounding cast for Tom Brady on Sunday. Tom Brady, even with that being said, played incredible, and he deserved the Super Bowl MVP in my opinion. He did what he had to do, and he solidified himself as the GOAT.
What stood out to me is not how Mahomes or Tom Brady played. What stood out to me is these two key stats. 1, quarterback hits, and 2, the penalties. The Buccaneers had 8 quarterback hits. The Chiefs had 2 quarterback hits. The Chiefs had 11 penalties for 120 yards, and they were a top 5 penalized team coming into the game. So you can say the refs made some questionable calls, but it's not like the Buccaneers have been a disciplined team. They have been all over the place all year long. And the Bucs only had 4 penalties for 39 yards. This is the reason why the Chiefs lost. The reason is that the Chiefs have been a sloppy team all year. A lot of their games have been close. They were not as dominant this past year as they were in previous seasons. And they just so happened to run into a team in the Buccaneers who capitalized on their mistakes, on their sloppiness, because no other team was really able to do it. You look at, they almost blew the game against the Browns because they were sloppy there. So it's not like it just happened against the Buccaneers. I will say that some of the calls I would have liked the referees to just let go of, because I don't think that they should have made some of the pass interference calls. I think it ruined the momentum of the game, and especially in the Super Bowl. Let the players play. That's my opinion. But these are some next-gen stats. Mahomes ran a total of 497 yards on his passes/sacks, and that's the most pre-throw/pre-sacks yards run by any QB this season. He had the most dropbacks under pressure by a quarterback in Super Bowl history. He had 29 pressures. Jim Kelly had 29. Brady had 23. And surprisingly, when Brady had 23, they won that Super Bowl. So he won even with being pressured a lot. And then KC, this is the reason why KC couldn't get anything going on offense. Kansas City used 5-man protection on 92% of their dropbacks, 48 out of the 52 plays called. And that's with having 2 backup offensive tackles. Mitchell Schwartz wasn't there, and Eric Fisher was not there either. So the Chiefs, 92% of their plays, they only protected with 5 guys, leaving their tackles on islands against guys like Shaq Barrett, Jason Pierre-Paul. Like, that's just not a recipe for success. And I think overall it was a bad game plan by the Chiefs. I also do want to mention this. It was a bad game plan by the Chiefs, but we have to be knowledgeable about the fact that, before this game, there was a lot of trauma and turmoil going on within Andy Reid and his family. Like, his son got into a car crash. A young child is, she's in the hospital fighting for her life. I think it's a she. I'm not sure. I know it's a child. she's in the hospital fighting for her life. So there was a lot of turmoil going on around the team and Andy Reid's head. He probably wasn't even present during the game. We also have to keep that in mind. I know that a lot of times that we want to act like it's just a game and this is like their job, which it is their job, but they're human too, and I doubt that Andy Reid was all the way there in that game Sunday.
Yeah, and that was a great point, first of all, in the preparation. I thought what else was interesting was it's not like the Bucs were sending these crazy blitzes. 27 out of the 29 pressures that Mahomes faced were only generated by a 4-man rush, and Mahomes only faced a blitz on 6 of his 56 dropbacks. So the Buccaneers were not sending these crazy blitzes, but they were just so dominant up front that 4-man front was able to generate all that pressure. So it just goes to show, one, how good that Bucs defensive front was, and two, how much those injuries really did kill the Chiefs' offensive line.
Talking about this Super Bowl, I want to say this. I think that Tom Brady won the Super Bowl MVP, and I think he should have. It should have been him or Shaq Barrett.
Yeah.
One of those two. I know people like to hate on Brady a lot. It's kind of routine at this point. But if the MVP award could have been given to a coach, it should have been Todd Bowles. I think Todd Bowles' preparation for that offense was phenomenal. And believe it or not, all season long, the Chiefs have struggled against two-man zones, like cover two. They have struggled against cover two all season long. When the Buccaneers ran it after the first quarter, when they played them in the regular season, the Chiefs couldn't really do anything. The Buffalo Bills tried to run it last week, and the Chiefs torched them. But then this game, the Buccaneers ran the same thing, a variation of cover two, and it really halted their offense. It really did. And I think they saw something in the tape, Todd Bowles, and he prepared his defense. And this defensive unit was great last year. That's why I was so confident going into this season that the Buccaneers were going to make the playoffs. I thought they would have made the playoffs with Jameis Winston because I thought this team was that good. But now that when they got Tom Brady, that's why they became my Super Bowl pick pretty easily, to be honest.
Yeah, and I just think it was the personnel for the Buccaneers, like being able to just rush 4 guys and create the pressure that they did while also dropping 7 back in coverage. It's very difficult to make plays against the defense like that. And even when they did, and we'll talk about Patrick Mahomes a little bit later, he made some unbelievable plays that didn't result in anything. There were a couple bad drops by the Chiefs. And honestly, the Chiefs didn't look like they showed up to play. And it all started with a first drive that kind of died. Tyreek Hill possibly could have had a touchdown catch. Instead, he drops it. And from there, the momentum was just all Bucs the rest of the way. And at no point did the Chiefs seem like they ever had control over the game.
Yeah, it seemed lost from the start. And this is just a fun fact / stat. Brady has now won a Super Bowl in 3 different decades. In 2000, he won 3. In 2010, he won 3. And now in 2020, he has now won 1